Have a good night.
How is it that you're never scared?
Who says that I'm not?
What are you scared of?
Let's see. Scorpions are pretty creepy. Being by myself. I'm scared of ending up alone.
The Last of Us 2 is one of those games that I cannot get out of my head. I've seen other reviews and they all talk about the same experience where after they watch Ellie walk off, they just can't stop thinking about the game days after finishing it. And yes, like many people out there, when I finished the game, I didn't like it. I thought that Joel was killed off in an unfair way. I hated playing as Abby the entire time, and the game just left me feeling really sad and like there wasn't a point to what I just spent 25 hours of my life doing. It's been about 2 months since I've actually finished the game, and looking back on it now, there's nothing negative I can say about either the story or the characters. And I guess the best way to describe it is comparing it to Season 8 of Game of Thrones. There's a lot of things to say bad about Season 8 of Game of Thrones, and there's a lot of other videos that prove why it's just a terrible season, but I was and am still under the belief that no matter how that series was going to end, it would have received really bad reviews. The reason we tend to enjoy more satisfying movies, like for example like a superhero movie, is because we know that the good guys are going to win, the bad guys are going to lose, and if a character passes away or such, we know that they're going to go in a really satisfying way, something that their entire lives have been building up to. It's like, okay, they can finally leave now. But life isn't like that. People are taken from you when you least expect it, and it's really hard. On the surface, it's really hard to see any light at the end of the tunnel, and... Really, bitch? On the surface, it's really hard to see any light at the end of the tunnel, but being able to let go and live your life the way that that individual would have wanted you to live is the only way to come out on top in these scenarios, which is the exact ending of The Last of Us 2. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep moving, you'll come to a better place. I don't think it would have been a Last of Us game if Joel were to, he was about to sacrifice his life for a bunch of people. He turns around to Ellie and says a cheesy one-liner. It wouldn't have been a Last of Us game. I remember feeling so much hate for Abby, and the 12 hours leading up to wanting to murder her, and then right as you find her, she kills Jesse just like that. Then he's gone. You finally build up to this one point, and then the game does a 180 on you. You start playing as Abby. And when I first started playing, I was like, okay, we're just gonna get through this quick little flashback, blah, blah, blah. But I kept going and going and going. Now, I can say for certain that for me and a lot of individuals out there that this was really hard to get used to. I didn't give a shit about Abby. And it's hard to see eye to eye with this person when you barely know him. The entire game has been leading up to kill this person, and you've already had 30 or 40 hours with Ellie and Joel. Looking back, however, Abby is just going through the same thing that she accidentally put Ellie through. She lost her father to this guy and her father was trying to save the world from an apocalypse. And she can't even sleep anymore because she's having these flashbacks about finding her father dead. It was just so hard for us to be able to connect with this beast of a character when we've had hours and hours with Ellie and Joel, and we've spent the previous 12 hours wanting to kill this person for killing Joel, but then out of nowhere it goes, oh, actually you have to connect with this character, which on paper makes perfect sense. I think the best villains are the ones that you can actually kind of see their side of. I mean, Abby obviously had a good reason to kill Joel, but I think that it was just hard to do it in such a small amount of time. We needed another entire game, if not even a DLC, to be able to fully connect with Abby before just being put in her position and saying, hey, look at this character, she has feelings too. I mean, the end fight was brutal. Usually when end fights come, you're ready to just kick the ass of the final boss and then move on and win the game, but that final fight felt terrible. I didn't enjoy I just wanted it to be done. I felt as exhausted as Ellie looked. Just I just wanted to stop and go home. Part of this game that I thought was really interesting that I don't really see a lot of people talk about is how Joel would say it.
Some folks call this thing here a guitar.
I thought that the guitar was a huge part of the game and was basically Ellie's last physical connection to Joel. I mean, it's literally the very first thing we see in the game and then the very last thing we see in the game. Like I said before, letting go is a huge aspect of the game, and Ellie's constantly finding these guitars around Seattle, which the Take On Me part of the game where Ellie plays it is easily the greatest scene in any video game ever. There's just no doubt about that. Anyway, these guitars are basically Ellie's last physical connection to Joel, and she's constantly finding them throughout and playing songs that she's learned throughout the past 4 years, and one of the big ones was Future Days by Pearl Jam, which Joel first played in the beginning. And this is when you have tunnel vision set on just murdering Abby. You don't care about anything else, you just know this one girl, and you just want her dead. That's all you can think about. When Ellie finally is able to let go of Joel's death and isn't fixated on murdering Abby anymore, I think is when she learns that she can't play the guitar anymore because of her missing fingers, and she has the final flashback with Joel playing the guitar and was her best memory she had before his untimely death. And then the game ends with her setting the guitar down and walking off. It's the last physical connection she really had with him, and being able to let go of that and move on with her life the way that Joel would have wanted her to move on is just, I think, the perfect ending. It's what is the hardest thing to do, and the game ends with her being able to finally accomplish that after thousands and thousands of mistakes. I really do hope that over the next year or so the fan reviews kind of turn around a bit. I mean, they're abysmal right now, but it's kind of hard to forget the shitstorm that happened before the game was even released. But if you have another 30 or 40 hours to play, which we all do right now, I think playing it a second time and being able to come up with a more open mind, like knowing the ending of the game and everything, and watching other reviews where maybe it's not as sad of as the ending that everyone first thought it was. It's important, so I'd recommend playing the game again and just coming to it with more open mind. If you still think, however, that the game is really sad and my opinion is trash, then there's a nice fan theory I saw that is kind of cool, that maybe she did have the perfect ending that we all hoped that she would have had. A YouTuber commented on the letter you find at the farm when you are with Dina and the baby. It's from the baby's father's mom, Jesse's mom, saying that they will always have a place in Jackson if they choose to come back home. Also, if you notice, when Ellie leaves to fight Abby at the end, she's not wearing the bracelet Dina gave to her, but when she returns, the camera zooms in on her hand. We were focused on the fingers that were missing, but looked completely past the fact that she is now wearing the bracelet, possibly meaning that she has already been to Jackson and is living with Dina. She just went back to the farm for the guitar, but decided to leave it. That represents her finally being able to accept Joel's death and end the cycle of revenge.